Hey everyone, we've got a lot to talk about today because there's a major shift in the weather pattern coming to the United States, and it's going to bring some pretty wild conditions over the next several days. We're expecting multiple storm systems to develop along the southern tier of the country, and as we move into next week, there's even the potential for a significant storm that could bring severe weather. And yes, possibly even snow. In this video, I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know about the weather that's going to impact the U.S. over the next 7 to 10 days. We'll break down what's happening right now, what's coming this weekend, and what we're expecting next week, including the potential for a huge storm toward the end of the week. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button like this video and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. Let's start with what's going on across the country this morning. We're finally seeing the last of that powerful storm system that's been causing severe weather over the last 3 days. The good news is that it's moving out and only a few lingering showers are hanging on in parts of New England. But on the backside of this system, colder air has settled in, and that's led to some light snow and even some quick-moving snow squalls across parts of Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee. It's been a pretty active stretch of weather, but things are about to get even more interesting. As the storm system exits, we're going to see warmer air start building in across much of the country heading into the weekend. But don't get too comfortable because right behind that warm-up, we've got more storms lining up. By Saturday and Sunday, the southern plains are going to see a return of showers and thunderstorms, and there's even a chance for some isolated severe weather. What's really interesting about this system is that it could also bring some snow to parts of Oklahoma, Texas, and maybe even Kansas. It's not often you see that mix of severe weather and snow in the same region, but that just goes to show how dynamic this setup is. And this is just the beginning. The weather pattern over the next couple of weeks is going to stay very active, with multiple storm systems expected to sweep across the country. A big part of this has to do with what's happening in the upper atmosphere, specifically with the jet stream. Right now, we've got two main troughs influencing the weather. One is sitting over the West Coast, and it's already bringing heavy snow and rain to parts of California and the Four Corners region. The other trough, the one that just moved out of the central U.S., left behind some serious damage, including widespread wind reports and confirmed tornadoes. In fact, we've had 22 confirmed tornadoes from this system over the past 72 hours, which is even more than I initially expected. And while that's a pretty high number, it could have been even worse. This system had the potential to produce even more tornadoes than we saw. So in some ways, we actually got pretty lucky. As we move into the weekend, that West Coast storm is going to push over the Rockies and eventually into the southern plains. This is where things start ramping up again. By Saturday, we'll see showers and thunderstorms developing across the southern plains, and as the system moves east into Sunday, there's a chance for some isolated severe weather across the southeast. In addition to the storms, this system could also bring some light snow to parts of Oklahoma, Texas, and northwest Arkansas. We're not talking about a major winter storm here. More like some light snow flurries, but it's still something to watch, especially if you're hoping to catch one last glimpse of winter weather before spring fully takes over. Once we get into next week, the weather calms down briefly. A large ridge is expected to build over the central U.S. on Monday and Tuesday, bringing drier conditions to the Great Plains and surrounding areas. But don't let that lull you into a false sense of security, because by the middle of the week, things start to heat up again. A new storm system is expected to move across the central plains on Wednesday and Thursday, bringing scattered showers, thunderstorms, and the potential for some severe weather. This one doesn't look like a blockbuster event right now, but it's still worth keeping an eye on, especially since even smaller systems like this can produce isolated pockets of strong storms. But before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button, like this video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. The real headline, though, is what's coming toward the end of next week. By Thursday and Friday, confidence is growing that we're going to see a major storm system develop. And I really think this one could be comparable to the storm we just went through, if not even stronger. We're still about 7 to 8 days out, so it's too early to lock in the details, but the overall setup is looking pretty intense. We're expecting a deep and powerful trough to move across the Rockies and into the central U.S., and with that kind of upper-level support, there's a strong chance for severe weather and possibly even a winter storm. One thing that really stands out about this potential storm is just how strong the models are showing it could be. The GFS model, for example, is already indicating pressure levels around 973 MBA, and that's incredibly low. For context, the storm we just had set some barometric pressure records in the Midwest with pressure around 979 MBA. So if this next system verifies, we could be looking at another record-breaking event. Even the European model, which shows the storm taking a slightly different track, is picking up on the potential for a powerful system with strong winds and widespread impacts. Meanwhile, our friends on the West Coast aren't going to get much of a break either. Next week, we're expecting multiple storm systems to move through the region. The first one arrives on Monday, bringing showers and snow showers to California and the higher elevations. But the bigger storm comes midweek, and this one's going to pack a punch. By Wednesday, we could see heavy rain, significant mountain snow, and strong winds impacting the West Coast. Now, let's get into the heart of the forecast and take a look at the 6 to 10-day temperature outlook. This covers the period from March 10th to March 14th. And what really stands out here is the presence of a negative P&A Pacific North American pattern. In simple terms, this usually means colder than normal temperatures settle over the western United States. And in response, warmer air is pushed up into the central and eastern states. This pattern is very well established right now, and it's been the dominant driver of the weather we've been seeing. If you remember earlier in the winter, we often had the opposite, a positive P&A, which kept the western states warmer and forced colder air into the central and eastern U.S. almost the entire season. This kind of pattern really dictates the overall temperature distribution across the lower 48 states. And right now, the negative P&A setup is playing a big role in the warmer conditions expected in the east through mid-March. When we shift over to the precipitation outlook for the same period, we start to see the impact this warmer pattern is having on storm activity. Drier than normal trend is showing up for areas like Texas and Oklahoma, but further north and east, we see more favorable conditions for thunderstorms and possibly severe weather. The regions most likely to be affected include parts of the plains, the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, the Tennessee Valley, the Deep South, and extending into the Mid-Atlantic. While drier conditions in parts of the southern plains might limit storm development there, the areas just to the north and east of that look more primed for storm activity. Out west, the pattern brings significant precipitation, especially to states like California, Nevada, and Arizona, much more than what's typical for this time of year. Looking at the longer range 8 to 14-day outlook, which covers March 12th through March 18th, we see the negative P&A pattern holding strong. This continues to push warmer air into the central and eastern states, particularly favoring warmer conditions in the east. Precipitation-wise, the west remains very active with above normal precipitation, while the southeast and parts of the Ohio Valley see their chances for storms increase. Texas and Oklahoma, however, stay relatively dry through this stretch. When we take a step back and look at the temperature trends we've seen so far this month, then since the start of meteorological spring on March 1st, there's already been quite a bit of variability. Just over the past 5 days, we've seen a notable shift toward warmer temperatures, and this aligns well with the overall pattern we're seeing develop. The western and central states have been seeing a good deal of warmth, while the east has been a bit cooler or closer to neutral. But as the month progresses, we know those eastern areas are going to warm up significantly, and that's going to happen pretty quickly. The European model shows the development of a major storm system over the Great Lakes region with a central pressure of 981 millibars, a strong storm by any measure. This brings heavy snowfall to parts of the upper Midwest, including Iowa, Missouri, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. In addition to the snow, the system brings very strong winds and a significant threat of severe weather across parts of Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina. The severe weather potential isn't just limited to those states, though. Much of the surrounding region is also at risk for thunderstorms and damaging winds. As we move forward through the forecast, we see more systems developing. By March 7th, a new low-pressure system forms over Missouri, a concerning spot, as systems in this location often lead to severe weather outbreaks. Later in the month, another powerful storm develops over Kansas with a central pressure of 979 millibars and an expansive area of thunderstorms and severe weather stretching across multiple states. March is going to stay active. We're looking at multiple rounds of severe weather, heavy snowfall in the northern states, and continued warm regime across the central and eastern U.S. The models are in pretty strong agreement on this, which adds to the confidence in this forecast. So as we gear up for what's shaping up to be a very active and stormy March, make sure you stay tuned. I'll be keeping you updated on every development. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.